More charges in the January 6th Capitol riots this week. Retired NYPD officer Thomas Webster surrendered to the FBI. Federal prosecutors say the 54-year-old attacked a Capitol police officer with a flagpole. Webster also allegedly pulled down the officer's helmet, choking him. NBC News investigations correspondent Tom Winters joining me now. Tom, what's Webster charged with here? And do we know why he attacked a fellow officer?
Well, Allison, as you said, faces some pretty serious charges here tied to that incident involving the officer. Those images that you were just showing and we were looking at on screen are from the criminal complaint, and they're from, in some instances, the body's own body-worn camera. So the image you're looking at there, that's the view that the officer had as Webster was coming at him there. Obviously, scary images, 6 counts here, including assaulting of a federal officer, so some pretty heavy charges. This is a case that based on the evidence alone, does not look very good for Webster at all. Obviously, as far as his motives, he was clearly part of what was going on that day, a pro-Trump rally that turned into a riot about the election and the election results. He was later, according to other video that was found on YouTube, saying that there needed to be more patriots on the Capitol steps to continue their protests, and obviously, which turned into a violent riot there, Allison.
Yeah, Tom, Webster is one of about 245 people charged in the Capitol riots so far, but the FBI has identified over 400 suspects. Any indication from the FBI if they're making headway on the 150 or so suspects still left?
Sure. So it just depends on what part of the country things are coming from. But on a typical day, we do hear of a number of arrests that come forward. We hear about people from all walks of life. Obviously, we've had a number of first responders, including Webster. And so, yes, they continue to examine these. You know, in the Webster case, they actually identified him through several different means, including looking at a license plate reader, matching that up to when he might have been in the D.C. area, even talking to an administrator at his kid's school to try to match up photos, and I positively identify him. You know, I neglected to say before, Allison, it was interesting yesterday because the New York City Police Union, the largest police union in the city, the PBA, did come out with a statement against Webster. It was really a forceful repudiation of what he did. They said this was a disgusting assault on our Capitol Police brothers and sisters, on our government, and on everything that New York City police officers stand for. Even worse, the suspect once wore a uniform. Justice must be swift and severe. According to our colleague Jonathan Dienst, he was once on the mayoral detail and worked at City Hall here in New York City. So, you know, when you look at the 245 people that you were just saying that have been charged here, they really come from all acts of life, and their actions have certainly upset a number of people, and they face some pretty serious charges going forward, Allison.
Yeah, pretty incredible there, Tom, just to think that a former NYPD officer, someone who, as you said, once protected the mayor, could potentially have done that. Let me ask you about this. Senator Amy Klobuchar blaming intelligence breakdowns in part for the poor response on the 6th. Here's what she told Andrea Mitchell on MSNBC today.
The National Guard, to get them mobilized, usually do it in advance, at least 24 hours, 36 hours, at best for a big event, a week in advance. That didn't happen here, and that is in part because of the intelligence breakdowns with the Capitol Police and others. But then you had the second piece, which when the crisis was going on, why was there any kind of delay at all, and why didn't they immediately say, we're going to do everything we can right now?
Tom, your take on the senator's assessment there?
Well, I mean, I think she's keyed in on a couple important points. One, why wasn't the National Guard deployed in the first place? Why was there such a delay once it was clear that the capital of the United States was being attacked, and the law enforcement setup that was put in place by the leaders of the Capitol Police and others in Washington, D.C. was utterly failing, and people were in risk, their lives were at risk, and eventually people did die, of course. With respect to intelligence, you know, respectfully, my analysis of it and speaking with people in the law enforcement community, this wasn't a failure of intelligence. This was a failure of imagination. It was well known that the rhetoric was very hot coming into this event. These were some of the president's most ardent supporters, people that truly believed that the election had been stolen, people that believed that if they were somehow able to access the Capitol, that they could affect the outcome of the election, that there was fraud, that a duly elected president in Joe Biden should not become the president. And so when you look at that and the rhetoric that we saw online that, frankly, our colleagues wrote about here at NBC News, to get a sense that this could not have occurred, I just don't agree with it. And I think one of the things that we learned on 9/11, I think one of the things that law enforcement agencies have tried to learn since, obviously didn't in this instance, is that you have to be prepared. So if there's all this rhetoric, you have all these supporters there, it's a hot environment, there needed to be much more physical security. There needed to be a lot more personnel to try to be on hand to, one, deter the threat, and two, once these type of scenes started happening, be able to repel it. Also, look at the Capitol. I mean, you have people standing in these doorways, breaking through glass, fighting with officers. How is there not a more secure environment? The architect of the Capitol, how is there not an automatic door system that could be used to lock and bolt? Why was there so much glass that was able to be broken and busted through? So really a lot more questions, Allison. And in your discussion with Garrett, this is something that a commission, a 9/11 type commission, if it were to be stood up and be something that was bipartisan, could really be helpful here.
A failure of imagination, not intelligence. Tom Winters' analysis. Tom, I think a lot of folks would agree with you there.
Sure. Probably so.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.